Over to you, Faizan.
Thank you, Nikita. I'll take a moment to share my slide. I hope I'm audible, right?
Yes, yes, you are audible.
Thank you. So thank you once again, Nikita, and thank you uh, the participants who have joined and tuned in. So these are very important questions we all come across, as Diksha elaborately discussed, by research through different categories. So this in this particular segment, what I am going to talk about is why publish. So this particular question, why publish? It seems a very broad question. So we may need to narrow it down so that we have a focus on what are we going to discuss. So, of course, this is a question which, in a way, expects or demands a kind of answer. But this question is also asking a few more questions. What I mean by that is, here's a question: why publish? So there are some assumptions here. Do we have something? What is there something that needs to be published? So the question of what? So yes, it assumes a kind of a prior availability, excuse me, of research, or maybe other things also. So we are not, in a way, talking about because we can publish so many things. We can publish novels, we can publish monographs, books. But in our context, we are going to narrow it down to publication of publication of research articles in journal. Again, this question brings us to a question: why? Why do we need to publish a research article, especially in a journal? So that is going to be the focus of this segment of conversation. So again, this question: why do we need to publish a research article in journal? Many people understand this question differently. For an undergraduate, the question can come in a different shape than what the question stands for a PhD scholar, or maybe for a well-established scholar or well-established critics. So the question can mean different things to different people at different stage of their education. Why publish Why publish an article in a journal? So in this regard, I would like to draw your attention to how this question of publication of articles in a research journal, it becomes more illuminating if we see in the context of the history and practice of journal itself. So if you look at, for example, if you look at this slide, so journal, what we call journal, is a kind of periodical. The very history of this particular periodical dates back to 1665. So before 1665, we do not find, existence of journals. So we had, these are the two pioneering journals, one in France, another in England, and they in a way set the stage for this kind of periodical literature that we call journals, and that's where we publish our journal articles. Now, in our context, from this time, from 1665 till 2025, it's more than 400 years, almost 400 years of span. In this span, it is in fact humongous to believe that we have we have published more than 50 million articles so far. And again, this data is from 2009. So if we calculate from 2009 onwards, So again, we have added many more millions to this corpus of ever increasing corpus of research articles in journals, and they are by conservative standards. So if in 1665 there were just two journal in the world, now in today's in today's context, by some conservative standards, we have some estimate 30,000, 40,000, but it is in fact double of double of these figures. So we have now more than, in a way, for 50,000 journals, journals, as well as the print journals, as well as open access journals. So we have a range, and we can see it's a prolific, it's a burgeoning industry in itself, and indeed research is the biggest industry in the world. So in this context, if we also align this idea of publication, research publication, and publication in the context of research output, country-wise, geography-wise. So if we look at, I hope these figures are visible to you all. So if we look at this particular slide, so we have China, United States, UK, India, Germany, and Japan. So these are the top countries in terms of research output. And recently, the emergence of China as a superpower, so to say, in global context, and how it is also outpacing or overtaking US in terms of research. And then we have United States, UK, and India. So in one way or the other, India is in the top 5 research output countries. So what is interesting to see is that the very economy that we talk of, the very growth of economy, in today's context, we have another concept, something like knowledge economy. So how research also contributes towards a research economy is very interesting to look at. So having said this, so why publish? So we have the journals, we have the plethora of journals, we are doing research. By what is the point of adding one more research article in the corpus of existing research? So here I would like you to respond with your understanding of this question, like what is your motivation to publish? So we have millions and millions of paper in the world, we have hundreds and thousands of journals. So please, Nikita, could you please share the Menti thing, and participants can respond to the question, what is your motivation to publish? Why do you feel the need to publish?
Yeah, here you go. I've shared it again with the QR. Please feel free to write your answers. Yeah.
The conversations that we are having here is by no means, we're not trying to be more, we are not trying to, I mean, these topics are too huge to be tackled in a session or two. So these questions are important. So we have just initiated a sort of conversation where we can share our thoughts, in fact, a perspective on these fundamental questions. So the way we are discussing these ideas, these are not exhaustive. We are not exhausting the topic itself, but we are trying to give you a perspective on these questions. Many of us have a sense of things, why research, why publish, and most of the times we are right in our own understanding of things. But these conversations help us orient ourselves. So we have two responses here. It's necessary at this point if anyone wants to grow in academia. Yes. The typical thought to contribute to the field, apart that I feel it is also about making a position in the field with a different, unique, or something important. That's true. Well put. To grow in academia, well said. It gives me a sense that I have an insight and I can have some impact on the readership and change their perspective or help them in a certain way. That's true, yes? To put into words what I have studied and learned through my research so others can read and respond to it. Yes? Excuse me. Researching makes me feel good. Publishing makes it feel more concrete. Yes? Part of the all these are all good responses in the sense they also, I mean, all these are responses are right in their own ways. We all have our reasons to publish and we all feel the need to publish things. Part of the reason I believe comes from the way we look at the question of why research. The reasons the Diksha has pointed out three ways of understanding this question of why research: pragmatic, intellectual, and existential. So part of the reason to why we publish also comes from why we research.
I'll stop it now and please keep.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Publishing builds credibility and opens doors to opportunities like collaboration and speaking engagements. Yes, that's true. Thank you for your responses. And okay, so now we can move forward with further points in this regard. Why publish? So yeah, most all the responses are right in this sense that they all are. We can see each point, each response in a complementary way. Each response is complementing another response. So it's a multifactorial thing. So there can't be in fact one absolute reason to publish research. It varies from researcher to researcher, from education of from the level where one is studying. It could be undergrad, it could be masters, PhD, and well established scholars. So it varies from stage to stage, and of course, the rationale we bring to why research. So if we look at here, and many of the things that I'm going to talk about will, of course, they will resonate in the responses we have. So if we, like, researchers have something to say and contribute. We also have this urge to know something, and that is why we want to know, we want to understand something, and that is why we undertake the enterprise of research. We want to understand something, we want to learn something, and we believe through research we can learn something, know something. All right. So that is very fundamental to being human. So the capacity, this inclination to understand something. This is one part. Another part that comes with being human is we also feel, in a way, motivated to say something. So in this sense, in the context of why publication, we can see this, like researchers they feel that they have something to say, and they also believe that they have something to contribute to the ongoing conversation. We often see in academia as a kind of conversation. Whatever topic we take to research on, there is always something of the kind going on in one form or the other. So we ask questions, we try to respond with our own research, and that way we contribute from our positions. So yes, we also publish research because researchers, they want to be heard, seen, and recognized through our research. So researchers, and again, why publish? So when we publish, another important aspect here is when we really write something and we make it available to public, people take things seriously. So again, publication could be seen in terms of how and to what extent one wants to be taken seriously in the community in which one wants to take part. And this again, this point, publication serves the enterprise of serious thinking and knowledge creation. We all have something to contribute. We have something to say in the larger body of literature. So through that we contribute. Through that contribution, we create something, and that contribution is again can be seen in terms of how thinking is at the center of research as well as publication. We invite thinking, further thinking. When we publish our research, we invite further thinking. We expect others to engage with our research. We want other perspectives. So as a researcher, I have my own perspective through which I see the world. But when I publish, I also expect others to respond, engage, and communicate their understanding of things, so that the collective knowledge, so to say, keeps going forward. And when we publish here, I have this point, like important to find one's audience or tribe. So whenever the question of why publish, it is also a question of finding one's audience. So in the word of it may not sound very sophisticated though, but yeah, scholars, they form community, they form tribes, they form ways of understanding things. So we have different clusters of scholars. They work on a particular area and they become a sort of tribe. And let's go further than this. If I say, what is a publication? And yes, I believe most of us have a sense of these are just the basics of what is a publication. Like it's basically a dissemination of the documentation of research. So when we publish, we are basically in a way disseminating our research. We have done our part. We have the research at our hand, and we have documented the things. And now it comes to sharing the research with the larger public. So making it public. So there are research of kinds which are not made public, which are, you may have come across there, one can find examples from, in fact, in every discipline, not every scholar who researches publishes. Sometimes they don't feel the need, they don't want to really publish. They have done, but they keep the research to themselves. That is how the research feels to be in the public domain. But there are ways to get into and find how to bring those research into public domain. So having said this, so one can understand publication as a means to many ends. So I have pointed out just 4, and of course these are not exhaustive points, but these points help us understand a perspective on publication. So the first point, as you can see, is participation in the conversation and community of researchers. One of the responses was also along this line, where they say and I say. The very need to really say, to share that what I want to say within a particular audience, with a particular audience or in a particular community of researchers. So that's how we find our own voice, and we are in doing that we find ourselves also. Another is one contributes in collective knowledge on a subject. Yeah, we have this sense when we do research, we publish research, the collective knowledge, so to say, of in a particular area, on a particular subject, it helps us to expand that knowledge base. And another way in which we can understand publication as a way to impact the society, how through publication, there could be publications which are influential. And there are some examples in history where people say that, especially professors or supervisors, they know that the scholar has worked really well. but the research particular dissertation or thesis remains in the library or somewhere. They are not published at all. So the real impact of publication also gets limited if something is not actually put in the public domain. So after sometimes decades, sometimes several decades, sometimes centuries, people retrieve, people go back and try to, you know, bring those knowledge into public domain, and then and again the conversation from there takes new directions. So it's important to see publication as a way of how one can bring impact in society by bringing out certain different insights, as each of us has a different way of contribution in the larger collective knowledge. And of course, the greater good of the humanity happens through publication. So, and the fourth point, that is, of course, and this is the, in a way, this is the byproduct. But of course, the incentives of publication, like one also gets to be recognized, and the career advancement, of course, both is strengthened when we finally put our researches in the public domain. You may have heard of these phrases, like people also sometimes feel that most of the responses that we have, we do not, I couldn't see, I mean, there are, when I talk to my, talk to students, talk to researchers and other in my community and in different platforms. So people have this tendency to see how, in particularly in our context, in our point of time, there is a culture of publish or perish. So far I have discussed how we can publish literature, how we can, when we publish our research. So it gives ways into flourishing. We flourish by way of publishing, by doing research. But in our context, we see sometimes people become frightened, and they are afraid, so to say, that if they do not publish, they will perish. So that is the, in a way, the climate of today's academia. But I would like to point out why this is not the why publish or perish culture is not hasn't come about only in the present times, in 21st century or late 20th century. It was in fact present, though in a very different degree or intensity, in previous decades. In fact, it's a century-old phrase itself: publish or perish. And I'll also point out briefly, like why publication could also be a means to perish. And it seems very counter, in a way, it seems very paradoxical to believe that how publication can also lead to a kind of perish, to what we call perish. Again, we understand that perish here is a metaphor of sorts, right? Okay, so if you look at the publish or perish thing, the very phrase itself dates back to 1932. It's almost a century old. So though people have argued that that it is nowhere to be found who is the actual, so to say, who had coined the phrase, or who was the first one who coined or used the phrase. But in the literature available, we can see that in 1932, it was found to be present in H.G. Cole's work, where he uses this word publish or perish. And again, it's 1932, it's not 2025, as we can rightly understand. In 1942 also, there's a book by William Logan Wilson, The Academic Man, A Study in the Sociology of a Profession. So in that book also, we find the phrase publish or perish. And again, in 1951, we have this phrase used by Marshall McLuhan, who is a famous media theorist. So the popularity, or the, in a way, this particular phrase seems to characterize our times in a way. But when we look into the history of it, it was there in the beginning, not in the beginning, it was there in the early 20th century as well. Of course, the intensity, the degree in which the word has come to take hold of our imagination and the way it has, in a way, forcing us to publish low quality works also. So with this, I'll now come to why and how there is a how people publish, and they are publishing but they are not actually flourishing, but it's happening the other way around. They are, in fact, they are, instead of in the previous slides we get to see that how a researcher, the visibility thing, the conversation thing, the larger collective contribution. So when all those aspects are get eliminated from research, from publication, when a researcher does not believe in such, does not is not motivated by such ideas, then one ends up publishing low quality publications. Of course, it could be seen as a one needs to survive in academia, so one ends up publishing low quality works also, and it could be sometimes pragmatic for one's survival, but that is not the end in itself. That shouldn't be the end in itself, and that is why we need to think beyond that pragmatic level and to intellectual. How through publication one can extend the boundaries, one can enter the conversation, one can explore larger conversations and impact the society. So yes, we end up taking route to predatory publishing practices where we are not actually contributing, we are not concerned about who is going to be my audience, who is going to read my paper. We just want it to be published. So again, this is one needs to take into account why one research and why there is a need to publish in a way that helps the larger community, larger scholarship. So when we publish in predatory publishing houses, and we don't find the so-called our tribe in a way, we don't find the opportunity to have conversations, to extend dialogues, and that results because there's a lack of serious and sincere engagement. The conversation part gets reduced to simply API score in the context of India. So all these are problems when we try to see why publish. So we should publish, as I said, we have a sense of things. We publish for various reasons, but when we do not publish for the right reasons, for the good reasons, for the larger, greater good, it becomes we are not only become sort of, so to say, a simply another research paper, another bunch of paper. So towards the end, I would just like to add a few points, like how we can see when we think of why publish. So we can think of publication as a participation in the larger. This should be, in a way, one of the driving motives of why publish. The question, why publish? So publication as a participation in knowledge creation, and how we can look at publication as a mark of researchers' competency. In today's context, especially, every now and then, those who are either in their undergrad or masters or PhD, or even if they have their tenure jobs, each one is expected to do research, because this is our knowledge economy. So in 21st century, we are being driven by knowledge rather than simply other than I mean, the knowledge, the research we do, they drive not only the economy, they drive the entire ecosystem of human, of all sorts of ecosystems that the humans inhabit in. So yes, so researchers, when we publish, it also indicates our competency, that yes, we can take up a question, we can ask questions, and yes, we can explore a particular question in a particular way, and we can generate insights, and that's how we can participate in the creation of knowledge. So all these things are important, and that is why also people publish. And another reason that publication has become so important in today's context is it has become a sort of criterion in terms of recruitment, tenure, and promotion and grants. And this is important not only in the context of a researcher or a scholar, but of course, also in the context of any institution. We have NAC scores for universities, colleges. We have world ranking systems. All these ranking systems are fundamentally connected with what a research, what you publish, where you publish, what sort of impact you have in the larger community, in the larger world. So all these questions become important in the context of why publish. And one last point I would like to touch, like people especially in the context of India, a generation ago, research was the way research is being put at the center of education was not there in the previous education policy. So we have research in undergrad. There are pros of these approaches. We had teachers, and you may also have come across your teachers. You may know someone that a teacher who is an exceptional teacher, but that teacher may not have published a work or a research paper. But of course, that does not discount the credibility of the teacher. But in today's context, why publish is why publish? It also becomes important for teacher to publish, because we are now in today's context, the academia is trying to bridge the, so to say, gap between a teacher and a researcher. So to create more informed, research-oriented, research-informed pedagogies, and to help a generation, to help incoming students to know the know-how of research and to contribute and to impact the society. So teachers also can't now, in a way, leave the, so to say, this aspect of why research. So it has become an indispensable part of academia, why research. So with this, many of the things that we can take up in the questions that you may have for us. Of course, we haven't exhausted topic. We have just shared our perspective, our take on these questions. So feel free to ask or put your responses to what we have said. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sorry. Thank you so much, Faizan. Thank you so much, Deeksha. This has been the most thought-provoking discussion, I believe. I would briefly sum up a few points that you have said. So I really liked how you put research as a way of life, Deeksha. And I believe that's very pertinent in the way that our life practices seep into the way we research, and vice versa. Our research practices end up shaping the way we live. So I believe research needs to be in that. This question actually is unique in that it needs to be seen in a certain way, an authenticity of living through research. So yeah, the same point is you started with what is research. I believe that becomes very pertinent when, especially at an early career level, where you are starting to you write in all sorts. You get introduced to all sorts of formats of writing. And you're writing from assignments to maybe opinionated pieces to theses and everything. So in that context, figuring out what is research, how is it different from a piece, let's say, that you publish in a magazine. So this is something that we will take care of in the second section too, but the way you put it was very interesting. The three categories that you made for researching, existential, intellectual, pragmatic. The first two of those actually explore very well how writing explores thinking, how it develops into the very formation of ideas. It helps us into the very development and formation of ideas. And it becomes an internal exploration. You can explore your angsts, you can explore your doubts through that, and research in that. Once you have done it, you realize how that aha moment, as one of our participants said, hits you while you're researching. The third reason, pragmatic one, that leads towards publication, how you actually, what Faizan very succinctly covered on how publication matters, how pragmatically you need to research to be in academia if this is your calling, as you said. So, and how that I'm sorry, oh, I got muted, right? You can hear me now, right? Yeah. So the very obvious and first reasons that are most tangible is the criteria. As a student, you need like if you need to get your PhD, you have most universities have criteria like okay, you need 2 publications in order to finish your PhD, things like that. So the criteria matters. Your job promotions are based upon criteria. Then there comes credit. As a researcher, your standing depends upon what you have published. Then there are monetary reasons, funding, grants, whatnot, that are related to research. But beyond this, these factors of criteria and credit and monetization, there are motivating factors that Faizan has very well put. I really loved your analogy of how perish or publish actually transitions to publish to perish. Although I like the wordplay of saying perish to publish. So yeah, how you actually take up a journal, how where you end up publishing also matters a lot in figuring out whether you have reached the right community of readers, whether you have actually been able to engage, or is it simply a dead end publication where you will get the credit, but it doesn't go any further. So again, a topic that we'll talk more about in the next session. Beyond this, yeah, I think what you said also gets uh, categorized into the same personal and professional reasons. A larger reason for contributing to your field, the personal reasons would be criteria, credit, creating your identity as a researcher. And when you get to the larger reasons, it would be contributing to your field of research, participating in knowledge production itself, creating a larger discourse from your research perspective, how you put it out there, how you engage with it. So that's very important to understand for a research, having that holistic picture. Again, after this, when you come specifically to the Indian context, because our participants and our group are established in the Indian context, you have, and most of us are, because of the way our education system is, most of us have a sensibility of liberal studies. So we end up researching, reading about diverse areas within our subject fields, which makes it more holistic, which becomes our strength over time. So that's one point that I find very interesting. However, once we get into deeper recesses of research, when you're into PhD and all, you also need to learn to, as Diksha said, create your focus areas. I personally believe that it's very important to create a focus area of research, create your own purpose of research, sensibility of, holding on to a topic for something like 5-10 years, so that you can actually not just have a publication, but actually build upon the particular field of research that you choose. So, and this actually would again segue into the second section, and we'll also talk about the second session that we're going to have is going to talk about how to publish and where to publish to actually create such an impact. So, yeah, it's been brilliant. Thank you so much. Uh, if anyone has a question, please feel free to unmute yourself, talk to us. If you want to write, you can write in the chat box, whatever you like.